all of a sudden the plane starts shaking and buffeting like crazy. So I have a Cherokee 6, a PA-32, and we usually take a family trip to Sedona every year. And we were in Sedona, and we were departing Sedona to come back home in the wintertime. So it was, we had just cleared snow off the airplane. It was pretty cold outside, and got in the plane, did all our usual checks, went down the checklist, and I was traveling with my wife, who was sitting co-pilot, and then my 2 daughters in the back.
Closed and latched, you guys?
Yes, I watched theirs outside.
Yours still is in the open position here.
Okay, fine.
Whiskey 631 Bravo Whiskey is taking runway 21 for left crosswind departure Sedona.
And we departed from Sedona, and I noticed right after departure that it was a little bit louder in the cabin than normal. This had happened at pretty much to everybody that I've spoken to at some point in their flight training, and the door would be slightly open, not properly closed and latched. So it was familiar to me because it had happened before in flight training. And so I noticed that, the door wasn't totally closed. It was louder. And I said, oh yeah, to my wife, the door's open. It's going to be cold. It's loud. It's uncomfortable. It's going to be about a 2.5, 3 hour flight. So I said, all right, let's turn back to the airport. And she's like, no, it's fine. We'll keep going. Of course, I'm the pilot in command, so I pretty much ignored what she said and decided to turn back. But in the meantime, she took her jacket. She's like, no, I'll fix it. And she took her jacket, and there was just a tiny bit of daylight that you could see through the gap in the door. And she wanted to plug the door with her jacket. So she does that, and I'm already turning back to the airport by that point. And we're headed back to the airport. We had some discussion about if we're going back or not, and I just tried to put that to rest. So she's got this jacket plugging this little hole in the door, and we're coming in back to the airport. And it was only 5 to 10 minutes from when we departed, if that. And all of a sudden the plane starts shaking and buffeting like crazy. Like I'm feeling like it's almost out of control, or what's going on. And my first thought is, okay, something's going on with the engine. Why is the plane shaking so much? So I do my scan very quickly, look at the engine instruments, and everything's fine. And she goes, oh, my hand, the jacket. And I look over, and she's holding on to the jacket, but the jacket has, like, if you've ever seen like an octopus go through like a really small hole, that kind of thing, it can just sort of, that's what happened to the jacket. Went through the crack in the door and was hanging out the window, the doorway of the airplane, the little crack, and she's holding onto it. So the jacket is flapping in the slipstream of the prop. And after looking back at it, I realized what's going on now, which is that the jacket was disturbing the airflow so much over the stabilator in the back that it was causing this massive buffeting of the airplane. It's probably not the engine. It's something to do with this. I didn't put that together at the time. All I know is that she's holding this jacket and it's flapping against the airplane. I could hear it flapping against the fuselage of the airplane. And I just decided to, keep going. It's an uncontrolled airport, so there's no tower to talk to. There's nobody really to like declare an emergency with. It's just sort of like, we're going to enter the pattern and we're going to land as quickly as we can. I'm just going to try to stay as calm as we can. And I'm not going to make really any configuration changes with the flaps or anything. So we just, came in, and the airplane was kind of still doing its buffeting thing. I tried to keep my speed up a little bit so that I wouldn't get too slow, just in case it was going to have any, bad effect aerodynamically, like it would change the stall speed. So I tried to land a little bit fast and not change the configuration too much. And meanwhile, the jacket is just pulling on her hand, and she's complaining that her hand is hurting. And I told her, I'll just let go of the jacket. Who cares about the jacket? We're over kind of an unpopulated area. It's like this down jacket's going to fall on somebody. It's probably not going to be that big of a deal unless it goes into traffic. But there's not many roads. So, and she just somehow had an instinct not to do that. Which I'm definitely grateful for, because thinking back on it, had she let go of the jacket, it could have gotten tangled up in the stabilator and caused further problems. So she held on to the jacket, and we come in and we land, and landed safely, and we taxi over and parked the plane, get out of the plane, and I inspected the airplane. Everything was okay. And everything worked out totally fine. Nothing was like damaged on the airplane. I actually caught the whole thing on video. And I went back later and looked at the video, and I could see the stabilator once the jacket goes out. It's sort of like vibrating in this weird way, causing the aerodynamic buffeting of the airplane. So I thought that was pretty interesting. But I ended up making a video about that on my YouTube channel, where we look at that scenario. We see that scenario at the end of the video, but then I also made another video where I talk with a CFI about it and kind of break down all the things that are interesting about that situation from like a nerdy pilot technical standpoint, which is like, using a checklist, which I did. And we said door checked. My wife had closed the door, so and I visually looked at it. So I kind of did the checklist, but it still fell through the cracks. And then we talk about, pilot in command responsibilities, that there should be no discussion. I'm the pilot in command, and talk about emergency procedures. There's tons of lessons that we talked about. So that was a really fun part of the process of watching that video back and kind of dissecting everything that was happening and reviewing it. But in the moment, it was definitely pretty scary when the plane starts shaking. You don't know what's going on. But luckily, it all worked out okay.